It is that time of year when even the most rabid Iowa football fan may be thinking about another sport for another week or two. We shall see. Still, we will look at the Iowa football team and specifically the offensive line. Take two here over the next 50 or 60 minutes right here at the Voice of College Football, Hawkeyes Live. We will talk some basketball as well, of course, as the men's and the women's teams look to make a deep dive into March. And also, we're going to start a bit of a series in which we match up Iowa football against the rest of the Big Ten all time in some interesting categories. We will take a look starting today. Corey Bradder right next to me, of course, from the Hawkeye of the Storm. And this is a good week to get entrenched over there with all the basketball going on. Corey, how you doing today?
I'm good. Yeah, we're going into a busy week. So we had our Selection Sunday special on Sunday, posted that podcast, Sunday and Monday. And then, we got NCAA wrestling, we got NCAA men's and women's basketball, all of that going on. So it's a fun month, of course. And I was thinking this earlier in the week. I feel sorry for people that don't enjoy the NCAA tournament. I promise I'm not talking about you, Mark, because I actually have faith. I have faith that you will watch it this year. I think your priorities have changed a little bit, and I really do believe it's the greatest 2-day period or greatest 4-day period in sports. If you look at just a small period of time, obviously there's great events, right? But there's nothing like that Thursday and Friday. And, obviously I enjoy watching the women's game as well, so you could extend it to Monday. They go Friday through Monday, but I hope people are able to enjoy it. I know a lot of people who have 9-to-5s can't watch all the games, but I'm going to do my best.
Well, to set the record straight, I enjoyed the NCAA men's basketball tournament for decades.
I know
decades.
You did.
Loved it.
That's not record setting the record straight. I know that.
Loved it.
But you have not in a long time. And
yes.
I don't understand it. I don't understand it. And I'm not going to understand it. I would think that now, of all time, you would return to those roots. I would just think now. And by the way, your Buckeyes are competing in both men's and women's. So, I know you don't care about women's basketball, but they are in both. And Ohio State wrestling is good. So not that you care about wrestling, but I would just hope that you're going to be watching some basketball this week. But
Let me set the record straight a second time. So I have respect for all athletes in any sport, any endeavor that's honest and requires athleticism.
Don't like women's basketball.
I don't like women's basketball. It doesn't appeal to me. I've never watched one in my life that I was not being paid to watch.
How is that setting the record straight? I'm just
saying that it's not that I don't respect them and don't think that it's a tremendous product it's obviously, I don't think it's that tremendous of a product or I would watch it, but I think I have great respect for what they do.
Well, for the record, you don't watch women's basketball either.
Yeah, it's funny because during the Buckeyes show last week, of course, because Ohio State being in a similar place as Iowa and having just played that game against the Hawkeyes, we talked some men's basketball. And I went after the show and went through NCAA tournament results to figure out when did I last watch a college basketball game, like start to finish. Now, I have flipped in for 10 or 15 minutes during the NCAA tournament, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever. 2013 was the last time I sat down and watched a basket. It was Ohio State's elimination game in the NCAA tournament in 2013. That was the last game I could say, yeah, I know I watched that game. And I didn't, it's not like I took some kind of stand, like some political stand or something. It's all just what I feel like doing and not feel like doing. I have nothing against the sport or the game at all. It's just I've lost interest. But if you forced me to watch the game starting on Thursday or I guess tonight, it was not like I would be in torture. I would probably enjoy them.
Yeah. You like how I put this banner up that Iowa will face Fairleigh Dickinson in the first round of the women's basketball tournament. I'm sure you'll be tuned into Iowa Fairleigh Dickinson middle of a Saturday afternoon, right?
Fairleigh Dickinson is famous for pulling off an upset against, I believe, Villanova. in the
Well,
men's
just a couple of years
tournament.
ago, they just beat Purdue a couple of years ago. I hate
Okay.
these earbuds that keep popping out of my ear.
Don't know about that one.
Yeah, 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, they just beat Purdue.
You beat me to the punch because I was going to ask who the women were playing.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was you, came across my feed sometime on Sunday on my YouTube feed, and I thought, okay, I'm going to look up to see who Iowa is playing on the men's side, and I saw the Clemson and I immediately thought of football. I thought this would be a good football guy. I would love to see this football matchup for sure.
You know what's funny is I'm still working out arrangements to get down to Tampa. I'm doing my best to get down there. They could easily fall through by the end of the night. I won't get into details as to how that may happen, but we got proof for credentials. I got a proof for credentials, so the spot's there if I get down there. And I thought I'd get down there, and now it's looking kind of murky. However, I will say this: it would be ironic because if they beat Clemson, they'll likely play the 1 seed Florida. And the last time I was in Tampa for an Iowa event, it was the Outback Bowl, Iowa, Florida, when Florida spanked Iowa, CJ Beathard and the Hawkeyes. And it could easily happen with this basketball game because Florida's a 1 seed. So, again, who knows? Iowa hasn't been to a Sweet 16 since 1999. So you got to win 2 games to get there. It's going to be a hard one this year. First year under Ben McCollum. Nobody's going to fault him if they come up short. It's an accomplishment to get there. They're a 9 seed. It's a tough draw. But I actually think it's one of the better. As I looked at this draw yesterday and I went through the bracket and made by picks, I actually think Iowa got a better draw than many. I think Florida is the 1 seed that I would prefer to face. I don't have anything to do with, let's see. Who are the other 1 seeds? You got Duke. I don't want nothing to do with Duke. I know they're down one of their star players, a couple of they're really good players, but one really, really star player at guard. Still want nothing to do with them. I know Houston's a 2, Iowa State's a 2. I don't want to be in their sections. They avoided that quadrant. And then who else am I missing? UConn, I believe, is a 2. I think they're actually, I'm going to go back to since we're talking about it, let me go back to the actual bracket itself. Michigan, I know Iowa challenged Michigan at home, but I just have a feeling like you get them again. They've been so dominant during certain stretches of the year. I would prefer them not be in the same section as Michigan. I think Arizona's going to win the whole darn thing. Wisconsin's one of the hotter low seeds in the tournament. They're coming in as a 5, so I want nothing to do with them. Purdue just won the Big Ten. Don't want them as a 2 seed. So honestly, like if I could have picked a draw, it would have been the draw of Florida as the 1. I guess they are in Houston's draw. See, I get that confused. But Houston's on the complete opposite side of the quadrant. I would have picked Florida. I have no problem with Nebraska and Vandy as the 4 and the 5 in that section. Nebraska won a lot of games this year, but they've never won an NCAA tournament game. So they'll try to do that this year. They play Troy in the first round. How about this? I'll reveal this pick. I have Troy knocking off Nebraska in the first round. Am I correct in saying Troy played Nebraska in football a few years ago?
Yes, they did.
So let me read you some of these early matchups, Mark, and you tell me if you can think of any football games between these 2 schools. All right.
Love it.
Let me grab a few here. So this is an easy one. Ohio State, TCU.
Yes, they played in 2018 in Dallas, and Ohio State won that game.
They would have played a few years ago in the national title game had the Ohio State kicker not pushed his kick wide, right?
Absolutely. Good call.
And let's see. Louisville and South Florida. That could be a tough one.
Well, they have played many times because they were co-members of Conference USA and then the American Conference. So I can't really reset on the exact years in which they shuffled back and forth between Conference USA, Big East, and conference or the American Conference, but they all spent time together for about a 20-year stretch at various times there.
And Louisville, of course, is now in the ACC. Michigan State, North Dakota State.
That I don't know. It seems like every Michigan State non-conference game that comes to mind, unless they're playing somebody in the power conferences, seems to be a directional Michigan school. So I don't recall them playing North Dakota State.
Although North Dakota State, as you and I both know, have played a number of high major Midwest schools, especially Iowa, Kansas State, Iowa State. UCLA and Central Florida.
No, I am almost certain, at least during my lifetime, they have never played. Well,
All right.
Central Florida has only had a football program since 1997. I actually saw Dante Culpepper in person play Mississippi State in the school's just second season. Yeah, they just started playing in 1996 or 7.
Here's a tough one. Arkansas, Hawaii.
I am going to venture to say that they've never played because Hawaii typically does not play anyone on this side of the country in non-conference games because of the tough travel. They typically play a lot of Pac-12 teams.
So never faced in a bowl game?
No.
Let's see here. How about this one? Here's a first 4 matchup. Texas and North Carolina State.
Ooh. No.
Okay.
If you were going to say North Carolina, they've played in 3 bowl games, but not NC State.
The winner of Texas North Carolina State will play BYU. BYU Texas has happened.
Yes, they played a home and home about 5 or 6. No, it's been close to 10 years ago, and BYU swept Texas.
What about BYU North Carolina State?
No.
Okay. Miami Mizzou.
And people understand when I answer these questions, I'm about 98+% sure because I've got like post 1977 or 8 pretty well logged in my brain. Mizzou and Miami have not played in football in the last 4 decades or so. But that would be a good football game, sure.
Miami Mizzou, that had to have happened in a bowl game, correct?
No.
Miami Mizzou has never happened in a bowl game?
They have never played.
Let's see. Clemson, Iowa. Not in my lifetime.
Nope. What that brings to mind is when Iowa played in 1982 in the Gator Bowl against Florida, played in that part of the country against the Florida Gators.
Okay. How about, we mentioned Nebraska and Troy. Vanderbilt, McNeese. Let's see. How about North Carolina, VCU? There's a lot of programs on here, of course, that don't have high major football. How about here's one: Houston and Idaho.
That could be. I'm not going to say that I've tracked my memory banks, all of Houston's non-conference games. Obviously, they dipped into the group of 5 for a long time, but they would play a lot of those type schools back in the Andre Ware, David Klingler days of the late 80s, early 90s when they were scoring 800 million points a game. Like literally, they were scoring like 75 and 80 and scored 95 points in one particular game unless they would play somebody with a pulse. But don't recall that matchup.
Yeah, we know that like if you'd said Oregon, Idaho, we both could have said, oh yeah, they just played them like 2 years ago.
Yeah, 1 point game.
Yeah, ridiculous. Okay, how about Georgia plays St. Louis. Texas Tech and Akron.
I can't imagine that they've played. I'm not positive, but I do not believe. Again, Akron has not delved into that area of the country. I think I would remember those two playing. And by the way, Corey, you've hit on something here that I used to do. I used to do this when the games were released. I would, discuss the football version of all these matchups.
Let's see. Miami, Ohio versus SMU.
I don't recall them playing. And if anyone in the chat, just get on Wikipedia and double check me on these. And I'm not going to claim any knowledge of, some game in 1953, but anything post 1970s, I think I can nail pretty much all of them. No, do not recall those two playing.
And the winner of that game will play Tennessee. So do you remember Tennessee, Miami, Ohio, or Tennessee, SMU?
Tennessee, SMU, you would think may have
at some point.
At some point, but no.
Okay. Iowa State, Tennessee State.
Oh, I would have missed that one possibly, so I'm not going to answer that one. I would doubt it though.
So that's pretty much all the first round matchups that I find notable. I will give you. I'll reveal. Well, maybe I shouldn't reveal my final four. I'll reveal my final four. Who cares? I've got Duke taking on Houston. Football matchups there that you can recall?
No, that's what
And
I
on the
was
other
waiting to.
side, Michigan taking on Arizona.
No Michigan Arizona games.
And then in my national title game, I've got Arizona versus Houston. That
Well,
has
they now
happened
play in the same conference,
because they're in the same league. Yeah.
but
It's going to make
only.
a lot of Big 12 fans happy that I got an all Big 12 national title game. So,
And so you see Iowa losing in round 2.
yes. I mean, that's what I have. I mean, honestly, like I said, I think Iowa, it's not crazy to think they could beat Florida, but I think, I mean, I'm looking at it. When I make these picks, especially when I made the women's picks, even more so, because I think inherently I know more about men's basketball. But when I made my men's picks and most of my women's picks, I am picking some of these teams with a view to, okay, I've already picked an upset here. What are the chances that this team that I already, or maybe say it's a team that I give a 50-50 chance of winning in the first round, I may think if they get to the second round, they have a really good chance. They have a good chance of beating this team, but are they going to do both?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So that's how I look at Iowa. I'm like, okay, I probably give them like a 60% chance of beating Clemson, but if I only give them a 60% chance of beating Clemson, how can I pick them against Florida too? Like I could do that, but chances are they're either going to lose to Clemson or they're going to lose to Florida, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I have them beating Clemson, losing to Florida.
And as you know, the 8-9 winner defeating the 1 is not a completely uncommon thing. They're a substantial underdog, but I would guess they win that game 15 to 20% of the time.
I'd be curious to know that data. I'm sure AI could tell us, but yeah, why don't we check that out? I'm gonna look it up real quick on AI.
While you do that, there we go. We've got Cheviota. Thank you so much for back checking me. And again, I do not claim anything pre-mid 70s. So Tennessee beat SMU in the 1970 opener 28-3, according to Wikipedia. Hayden Fry coached the SMU team that went 5-6. Tennessee went 11-1, won the Sugar Bowl. Thank you for that.
Okay.
Cheviota.
According to ChatGPT, it is rare, and let's see, 1 seeds versus 8-9 winners, 10 to 15% of the time.
I was just about there.
Now, you were a little high, but
I said 15 to 20.
yeah.
Okay. Why can't they just give us a record? If AI is that good, they should be able to say
You're right.
8-9 winners like 37 and 204.
Well, let me just ask it specifically. What is the all-time record? Maybe it heard us talking percentages and it wanted to do the same thing. This says the cleanest all-time record since the 64-team era began in 85. The 1 seeds are 136 and 22.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
And 8 seeds have a worse record. I'm sorry. Hold on a second. 9 seeds have a worse record. So 1 seeds are 61 and 16 all time versus the 8s, 75 and 6 all time versus the 9s.
Well, the funny thing about the 8-9 game, obviously, is there's no difference between being an 8 or 9. You're in the same game. It just depends. It just determines what jersey you're going to wear.
Yeah, it might give you that stat we just read might give indication that the committee usually has 8-9 correct. I guess, that the 8s are, in total stronger.
They should win 55+% of the time, I would think. They should. If they're doing their job correctly over time, the 8 should win 55 to 60% of the time.
I agree. So no, it's going to be a fun week, and then the women, they get their first 2 games at home because they're hosting. So they'll get Fairleigh Dickinson, and then in the second round they'll get either Georgia Arizona State, or Georgia, Arizona State, or Virginia? No. Man, I can't believe I'm forgetting this now.
And Iowa football has played none of those teams in the last 50 years.
Oh,
Virginia, Arizona State,
hey,
or who? Who was the other one?
why don't we do the same thing for the women's bracket?
Sure. It's fun.
Arizona State. Yeah, it is Virginia. Yeah, Virginia, Arizona State, or Georgia.
Haven't played Georgia.
All right, let's start at the top. UConn and UTSA.
I have no idea on that one. I would think that no.
Probably at some point. Didn't they both play in Conference USA at some point? Am I wrong on that?
Well,
Different
UTSA is currently in the American Conference, and UConn left the American Conference.
Okay. But they were never in Conference USA together?
No.
Okay. I don't know why they had that in my head. How about Iowa State and Syracuse?
Iowa State and Syracuse, you would think. No, I'm not.
No,
coming
Iowa
up with
is
an Iowa State.
Iowa did that home and home back in what, like 7-8 or 6-7, I think. With I think that was that Jason Manson was on that team, I believe. Okay, how about Don Patterson's Western Illinois Leathernecks versus North Carolina? I could ask Don. Maybe they played North Carolina. I know his team played LSU and gave Nick Saban all he could handle. I don't know about North Carolina though. Be a better question for Don.
I am going to say no, but that's just a complete guess on that one. I am going to double check Iowa State and Syracuse.
Here's one that I bet has happened.
Okay.
Ohio State versus Howard. Ohio State just played an HBCU this past year, Grambling.
No Howard games. No games against Howard.
They've never played Howard?
Howard in football?
You played Grambling. They played Grambling.
Okay, understand something. Syracuse and Iowa State played in 1969, so just once. That one off my radar. Go back sometime when you're bored, when you're watching one of those Iowa football games from 2009 in the middle of May or whenever, and look at non-conference schedules in the Big Ten among Big Ten teams. Go back pre-19, early 90s. They loaded up on difficult non-conference opponents. Like everybody played just like 3 Power 5 games, non-conference. They weren't playing MAC schools, hardly ever.
Or HBCUs. Okay. Okay. How about Illinois and Colorado?
Ooh, that sounds like that would have been played.
Bielema versus Dion.
Yeah. I'm not coming up with that, but coming up with a Tennessee Colorado game. I'm coming up with obviously Colorado Nebraska games, and yeah, I'm going to look that one up, but I'm not remembering any of those matchups.
How about let's see here. Baylor and Nebraska. They've played, right? I mean, Rule coached both schools, but
well, yeah, they played. So let's get our timelines straight. Nebraska in the Big 8 until 96, and then they were in the Big 12. And yes, Baylor then going from the Southwest Conference into the Big 12. So from 1996 until 2010, they were playing.
How about Texas Tech and Villanova? You probably aren't able to pull that one out. LSU and Jacksonville. Jacksonville has not Jacksonville State. Does Jacksonville have a high major football program?
Not Jacksonville State. Okay. Yeah. I'm not aware of Jacksonville.
How about Duke and Charleston?
I don't believe so.
South Carolina versus Southern, or South Carolina versus Samford. I bet you it's happened because
I bet they played. Yes. South Carolina, yeah, there's a lot of that SEC. 2 of those games, that's Citadel, East Tennessee State, Middle Tennessee.
Austin P.
Yes.
All right. Clemson, USC. You're going to love that one.
Ooh. They have not played.
Really?
No.
It's an interesting one. Why? I wonder why I haven't. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's just like when Clemson and Texas played in the playoff last season, 24. That was the first time they ever played.
Here's another good one: Michigan State, Colorado State.
Uh, I know Michigan played Colorado State in the Holiday Bowl in 94, but Michigan State, Colorado State. I'm going to look that one up too because I'm not coming up with that ever happening.
Oklahoma versus Idaho. Again, probably one that you wouldn't be able to tell us, but Washington and South Dakota State, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't recall. UC San Diego versus TCU. Does UC San Diego have major football?
They don't. Here we go. Illinois and Colorado played home and home in 1989 and 90.
Okay.
Jeff George. Yeah.
Yeah. Jeff George and his kid played quarterback at Illinois a few years back and was pretty bad, correct?
Yes. Yeah, he didn't see the light of day.
All right. How about let's go back up to the other side. How about Texas versus Missouri State?
Missouri State just joined the group of 5, just joined FBS football in the last couple of years.
Were they in
USA?
Were they ever in FBS before?
They would play FBS schools, of course,
Sure.
within FCS, but
I wondered if they had ever been. They'd never been in FBS before. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Oregon and Va-Tech.
you would think at some point they would have. No,
No.
there are no Oregon. I'm going to double check myself because I missed Illinois and Colorado with a home and home in 1989-90. So
This says Cheviota says that in '98, Colorado State beat Nick Saban's Spartans.
wow. Okay.
23-16. That's a result.
Good
It's a
job,
great
Cheviota. Yeah.
How about this one? Kentucky versus James Madison. Probably never happened.
Yeah.
Although
James Madison is just.
Yeah, but Kentucky could have scheduled James Madison when they were in FCS.
Sure.
Back maybe when they were irrelevant.
James Madison just played Louisville last year. I'm going to look that one up unless Cheviota beats me to it there because
Also,
I don't recall that one. And now we're more cognizant of James Madison football than we were just a couple of years ago. Actually, they made their big splash about 15 years ago when they beat a top 10 Virginia Tech team.
I was going to say James Madison also just played Oregon.
Sure.
Let's see. Next on the list would be West Virginia and Miami, Ohio.
Oh, I'm sure they have played. They're only like 2 hours away from each other.
Are they really that close?
Yeah,
Really?
they're close.
Okay.
Well, Miami of Ohio is only about 45 minutes from the state line of West Virginia. I don't know where they are in relation to the university. Probably not quite that close, but yeah, West Virginia plays those Southern Ohio MAC schools. They lost to Ohio University this season.
And Iowa State lost to Ohio the year prior. So good on the Big 12. How about let's see, Louisville, Vermont? Probably have no recollection of that.
Vermont pulled off the big upset of Syracuse, right? About 15 years ago in the first round.
Oh, you mean in the tournament? Okay.
Yeah.
You could be right. Honestly, if I were to tell you most historic NCAA tournament upsets, what are the upsets that come to mind? And then I'll give you mine given my age.
Yeah. Virginia losing as a 1 seed to a 16.
And that was
Maryland, Baltimore
County, UMBC. Yep.
So I actually was not watching college basketball. I was out, but I heard about it. I actually flipped it on with about 5 minutes left. And they lost by like 15 points. Purdue lost as a 1 seed recently, right? In the last 5 years to a 16.
Dickinson.
Oh,
Fairleigh Dickinson.
You stated that one. I go back to UCLA. I actually witnessed in person, UCLA, the defending national champions, losing to Princeton on one of their famous backdoor plays in Indianapolis in '96.
How about the Vandy kid? What game am I thinking? Wasn't he Vanderbilt? Drew. Is it not Bryce
Bryce
Drew?
Drew, Valparaiso. I was at that game.
Valparaiso. I said Vanderbilt. I meant the other V
Yes,
school.
Valpo, Ole Miss.
It wasn't Bryce though, wasn't it? Was it Bryce? Was it
Yes,
Bryce?
it's Bryce Drew.
Okay. I guess I was thinking Scott Drew, Bryce Drew. Okay.
I was
Bryce
I
Drew.
was sitting on press row
Okay. Nice.
for that game.
I'll tell you.
I don't even know where we were. I don't remember where we traveled to for that game. Anyway,
Let me give you a couple. So Farley Dickinson, UMBC would have been on the list. The first tournament game I remember watching, of course, involved Iowa, and it was my heart getting ripped out in 2006 when Iowa lost to Northwestern State. Iowa was a 3 seed, Northwestern State a 14, and they lost on basically a buzzer-beating 3 from the corner with a guy in his face. So that was tough. UNI, how about Northern Iowa? Ali Farokmanesh with the 3 against Kansas. I think Kansas was a 1 seed or 1 or a 2 that year, and he shot it way too early in the shot clock, and it was a dagger. And I just remember Marv Albert with that call. Ali Farokmanesh, the little guard from UNI, beating Kansas. That was one of Bill Self's juggernaut teams, the Jayhawks.
Iowa State lost as a 2 seed to a 15. I don't remember the 15 though.
I believe it was UAB.
Or
in modern time, I mean, recently.
In the last 20 years?
Yeah, I think it would have been UAB. Would have been the team you're thinking of. And then, I mean, hey, Iowa lost to Richmond a few years ago. Richmond was, what was Iowa? Was Iowa a 5, maybe? And Richmond was a 12? That could be.
Richmond beat Syracuse when Syracuse was a big deal in the early 90s. Derek Coleman and that crew.
Okay.
Arizona lost to Santa Clara as a 2-15 matchup.
You probably remember this one. Kansas lost to Bucknell.
Yeah.
You remember that loss? Yeah, if I think long and hard enough. Oh, how about Drill MVP's Kentucky Wildcats losing a few years ago to the Peacocks, St. Peter's?
Yeah, I remember that one.
There's another one.
Just him complaining about it. That's all I remember. and for as successful as Tom Izzo has been, Michigan State has the reputation of going deep in the tournament all the time, or at least when I was watching. They did have a really bad upset in the last 10 years.
Middle Tennessee State. See, when you give them to me in recent history, I can name them, but I got to be, I'm not quite as photogenic with some of these as you are, and you go much further back. But no, that was Middle Tennessee. And yeah, there were other ones. Who just made a run like 2 years ago out of, I was not Old Dominion. Boy, I have it on the top. The school is named after a religious guy. I'm trying to think of what school I'm thinking of.
Oral Roberts?
Oral Roberts. They upset Ohio State a few years ago. And I remember Ohio State, one of their players was like getting death threats on social media after they lost. Like, God. Anyways, so thank you for helping me with that one.
What school is it out of the Tampa area that I had never heard of that made a run?
Florida Gulf Coast. Yep,
Yeah.
FGCU. They made a run. I don't remember who they beat, but you're absolutely right. They made a run. Yep.
Indiana was the defending national champion. They lost to Cleveland State. No, they were not the defending national champion. They actually won it the next year. But anyway, Cleveland State made a run to the Final Four in 1986. They beat Indiana. They beat David Robinson in Navy. Or is that who beat them? I think that's who ended their run. Yeah.
I remember, I was thinking North Florida had, the Ospreys had a upset. I could be wrong on that. A couple other schools that have definitely been on the better side of upsets. Western Kentucky Again, I wouldn't be able to tell you who they beat, but I know they've had at least an upset in there. Drake, again, I'm not great with history on Drake, but I know they've had at least an upset. Northern Iowa, I mentioned the one over Kansas, but I think they beat Texas a few years ago, which was a pretty big upset, obviously. And yeah, if we kept going down the rabbit hole, we could probably come up with a lot more. I want to say UC Irvine a few years ago, they had, was it Taco Fall, big 7'2" guy that's now, I don't think he's even in the NBA, but they made it little run, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And almost upset Duke. But again, I'd have to go back. See, I remember where I was with some of these games, but it's like, okay, what was actually the result there? Illinois has been upset a couple of times to schools they had no business losing to, like under Brad Underwood especially. They've been upset. And yeah, the remember that image of the kid with braces crying when his Northwestern Wildcats lost? I'm trying to think of, now he's all grown up and they've made a big deal of it, but there is that iconic image of him just bawling his eyes out of this result. So anyways, we're going to waste this whole show talking about nonsense, but it is relevant because we're sports people, and
Sure.
this is the NCAA tournament, folks. This is the
Absolutely
best week of the year, I think.
no issue with that. So since we will pass on the offensive line again and give it a take 3, maybe next week, hopefully next week, why don't we do this, Corey? And again, I'm going to remind everyone, Hawkeyes Live right here at the Voice of College Football every Tuesday at 4 Central, presented by FanDuel. And you saw the odds there with Iowa, 2.5-point favorite against Clemson, which pretty much falls in line with Corey's 60% projection. I want to run some football. Yeah, a little football here. We are going to break the mold with a little football. I have dissected 24 different categories of Big Ten statistics historically. We're just going to get a little taste this week, and I'm going to feed you a little bit, a different category each week, and just get your thoughts. So we'll start with, so this is a series, folks, that I will be unveiling here soon. That's not what I was looking for. That's kind of like the overall deal. All right. We'll get, oh, no. Here we go. So first of all, I think it's important to start with the actual membership. So why is that not blowing up? I'm blowing that up on my screen and it's not.
Is it opening it in a new tab or something?
Try this again. Give it one more shot.
While people are waiting, just don't forget to hit the like button. Thank you, Sam, for reminding everybody of that. And also, Kelvin said earlier, Texas Western over Kentucky. There's an iconic one that we should have.
Yes.
Right away. That would have been a good one.
We're talking about 1966.
Was that how long ago that was? 66. Yes. Wow. Glory Road, right? That's the old Glory Road movie.
Yeah, that was a historic one for sure. All right. Oh, my word. This is driving me crazy. But so you can kind of see that.
Why is it going back and forth?
I don't know. Because I'm trying to scroll up, but then I lose the list. There
you go.
Okay. Yeah. We basically have it there. So I think it's important with any of these lists to obviously establish, if you're comparing schools all time and their success in a conference, is obviously to establish that certain programs have an advantage of obviously being in the conference longer if you're just talking about numbers of wins or statistics that are just a compilation number. So there's your original Big Ten with a number of schools joining that first season: Illinois, Michigan, Minnesota, Northwestern, Purdue, Wisconsin. That was the core, the founding members of the Big Ten. Indiana, Iowa, only 3 seasons later, joined the conference. Then Ohio State was on a bit of an island by itself in 1912. Michigan State was definitely on its own island, kind of splitting the difference of, eras in regards to membership in the Big Ten, joining in 1950. Then Penn State was the 11th member in 1993. And then, of course, the recent influx of Nebraska, then Maryland, Rutgers the same season, USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington from the West Coast just 2 seasons ago. So just to set the stage on that. So instead of just drives me nuts. Instead of, let me do this very carefully, just giving the number of conference championships, and this includes tied championships.
Yeah.
Also put the number of seasons competed, because again, that should be taken into consideration. So any thought here? So these are all-time Big Ten championships, outright and shared. Michigan's number 1 at 45, Ohio State 40. You see the rest of the list. Iowa comes in with 11 at Big Ten championships. Their last one, of course, in 2004.
So the numbers below, like Nebraska, what does that O of 41 represent?
Okay. What I thought was fair here is that Nebraska has 0 championships in the Big Ten, 41 in the Big 12 and the Big 8. And they've competed in the Big Ten for 15 years. They competed in the other conferences 104 years.
So I learned something new. Rutgers has 1 Big East championship. Is that right?
No.
What was that from?
Oh, I'm sorry. You are correct. Rutgers won a Big East championship. They tied for a Big East championship. My apologies. Yes, you're right.
All right. And then the number on the right represents what?
That is the number of seasons in the Big Ten, the first number.
Gotcha.
There you see USC, Washington 2, and then the number of seasons in their previous conference.
Well, I would say that Iowa is pretty much on par with most of these other schools as far as rate is concerned, right? I mean, it can be easy to get frustrated by the lack of titles in the last 20 years, but like Wisconsin's about at the same rate, right? They've played, a little bit ahead of Iowa, right? They've played a few more seasons, have a few more titles. Minnesota, same thing, even though they've not had recent success. Ohio State's obviously an anomaly, and Michigan is an anomaly. But Michigan's been in the league longer than Ohio State. But yeah, Iowa's in the same ballpark as your similar schools like Michigan State and Wisconsin, and even Purdue, Indiana's. That I think maybe the biggest number that stands out looking at this is the fact that Indiana's been in the league 127 years, and they just won title number 3.
Yes.
So, and it was outright, and they won an Natty as well. So
we're going to start to see. You're going to see a separation when we get into these categories that I won't separate the schools for you, but I think you're going to see a natural separation where almost every category is almost the same tiers of schools in the same clumps. So these are outright Big Ten championships.
Okay.
So,
well, that separates it right there. Right? We don't. Why go further? That's it right there. Top tier is Ohio State, Michigan. Middle tier is Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan State, Iowa. Next tier is Northwestern, Indiana. Although Penn State is new to the league, so they're, again, unfair because they're so new to the league. But, and then, I guess Oregon,
2 seasons, got 1.
Yeah, this is just Big Ten. So
yes, they have tied Purdue. Purdue's a founding member of the Big Ten. Oregon tied them in outright Big Ten championships.
For programs that have been in the league for decades, the tiers are pretty much what you see here.
The only thing I'm going to say as we unfold this week to week, because there are a zillion other categories, Illinois is a bit of an outlier in these 2 categories that I just showed with conference championships, and it shows that they've had some outstanding teams apparently, but the rest of the time they're not good. Like they're in that lower 4 or 5 in everything else.
Well, couldn't you say the same thing about Indiana? I know they've got less than 8. Indiana's got 2, but when they're not good, they suck, right?
Well, yeah,
they
basically just sucked.
Well, yeah, it's just hard to look at them, I guess, with the lens that we now have, because
yes,
they seem to have established themselves.
The point I'm making is that Illinois has 15 Big Ten championships. They're fourth in the conference in Big Ten championships, but everything else we will look at, they will be in the bottom 4 or 5.
I have a question for you about Indiana and about the college football scene. How do you establish yourself as a blue blood? And can you establish yourself in a blue blood as a blue blood now, 150 years into, the the start of this sport? Can you
Okay,
just start that now? Because that's what
sure.
Indiana's won one title. They're not a blue blood, but I think there's people, especially with some of the money that's floated around out there, the NIL era, now the extension with Signetti, they believe that they can turn into this powerhouse, similar to what maybe Nebraska did in the 90s. But I also don't know Nebraska's history prior to the 90s. It probably was not as horrific as Indiana's was
No,
prior to 2 years ago.
Nebraska has one of the best winning percentages of all time.
So my question is, can Indiana establish itself as a true blue blood in the 21st century?
Well, let's first define blue blood. So here's where I stand
Yeah.
on this topic. There are other topics where I will die on the hill because I believe my way is the best way, et cetera, et cetera. When it comes to blue bloods, I will not do that. But this is my interpretation of blue blood. The term comes from royalty. That's where the term comes from. Meaning, if you are a blue blood, you will not cease being. There are generations of royalty that are like, picking up trash on the side of the street, but they're still royalty, technically. And then there are other people who have risen from the ashes and become billionaires, but they're not royalty. So this is just my thought that there's a difference to me between elite and royalty blue blood. Like Clemson became an elite by their dominance for a 10-year span under Dabo Sweeney. But in my eyes, the way I define it, Clemson can never be a blue blood. The
Okay.
blue bloods are already established and they
Okay.
cannot be changed.
So
That's
the
just my
answer is
thought.
no. You can't become a blue blood now if you haven't already established oneself as a blue. Like the numbers, go back, scroll down a little bit. Oregon has how many Pac-12 titles? 14.
Yes.
Is that they can't be a blue blood, right?
No, they haven't been that good pre.
But that's what I'm saying. But like now, I
2000.
think the younger fans would look at them as a perennial power.
Oh, sure.
And so they almost redefine the word blue blood. So I think, like you said, it depends on how you define that. USC is a blue blood. Nebraska is a blue blood.
Some
Obviously,
people would argue that Nebraska is not a blue blood.
well, they have 20. How many titles do they have? 20?
They have
outright
41 and 23 outright.
How is that not blue blood?
I'm just telling you, Penn State and Nebraska are the biggest arguments you will get out in the college football universe about being a blue blood. They're on the cutting edge.
Penn State has how many titles all time?
Well, the issue with Penn State is they were an independent before they joined the Big Ten, so they didn't win conference championships.
How many national titles do they have?
They have claimed, I believe, 5. I will have to go look at that number.
So, yeah, it's interesting. USC's a blue blood, I'm sure you'd say.
Yes.
Even though they have less conference titles than Nebraska.
They do. They have 37. They do have 29
outright.
And we will delve into winning percentage next week. That's an interesting one.
Go back up. Iowa is at 11.
Yes.
So, but
And
it really doesn't. We really can't just look at the numbers for Nebraska and say, well, they have this many conference titles. That makes them a blue blood, because you just got done saying you could win 20 straight conference titles right now, and you're still not a blue blood.
If that's the way you want to define it. And that's the way I tend to define it, because that's where the term comes from.
Yeah. So, Yeah, I guess that answers my next question because I was going to ask you if Indiana is on their way to becoming a blue blood, but the answer to that question is no. Now they could become a powerhouse.
Yes. Elite.
Um, yeah, like Clemson did. Clemson was actually going to be the team that I was going to ask you about. Like, is Clemson a blue blood? And I figured you were going to say no because I've had sort of the similar conversation with you in the past. And then, yeah, I had Penn State in my brain, had Oregon in my brain. I know you didn't believe Oregon was a power. I've always thought of UCLA as a blue blood because they're such a blue blood in basketball. They're LA, but then you look at the numbers, it's like, okay, they're really not. But they do have some rich history in football. I mean, go down to UCLA's.
They have a better football history than most people realize.
Yeah, I mean, how many? I got 17
Pac-12 championships.
17 Pac-12 championships. So, I know it's not nearly what USC has, but
Yeah. And when we get into winning percentage, you're going to see like UCLA's, even with a horrendous, largely 15 seasons, most recently, they're right under the first group.
UCLA has more Pac-12 championships than Oregon, and Oregon's been in the league, was in the league 13 years longer.
Good call.
So, do you want to talk about offensive line, Mark? We were supposed to talk about offensive line like 3 weeks ago, and then we did, and then
well, I had stated when we went into this that I just figured we were punting offensive line. That's why I filled the gap with this.
Well, I mean, do you want to talk offensive line? Or are we out of time? Or, I mean,
why don't we convene next week and we'll go with the offensive line?
We'll just keep putting that on hold.
It's quite the tease for everyone.
Yeah. Hey, I don't know if this was officially announced before today, but I did get a press release today that confirmed spring football. So if people are curious about that, let me pull it up here.
And while you're looking that up, I want to clear up for everyone in the chat that if you're interested in such subjects as we just went over, I'm going to produce an entire series. I'm going to go through every category meticulously. So there's a ton of other categories, major bowl wins and winning percentage and national championships and NFL draft selections and all that stuff. So check out on the main channel. I'm going to be producing videos.
Yes. So spring football begins March 25th. So that's a week from tomorrow. That Wednesday, of course, it'll go for a month. They'll have that final open practice on the 25th of April. And I mean, it feels like football just ended because it did. Like literally last month we had the Super Bowl and we had the national title for college football, end of January. And now we're back to spring, but it's fine. This is what happens. There's a good chance that Iowa men's basketball will be done by next week. We've said that before. Hopefully not. The women hopefully are advancing to a Sweet 16 and will still be in competition, but it's a pretty good time to turn the page to football. And then once you hit May, man, like you said, May, June, those are great months weather-wise. I love May and June, but May and June are not friendly to me sports-wise, especially when the Mavs are where they are right now. They're a disgrace. So no NBA playoffs to keep me busy. Might have to return to golf, but if Tiger's not competing in golf, I don't know that I can stand watching it either. So I don't know what I'm
not and never have been a baseball fan.
Sorry. Sorry to give you a bit. I just can never get into it. Never can get into it.
I went to a Mets spring training game on Sunday.
Oh, okay. See, I've been to a number of baseball games. I go to at least a baseball game or two every year. Not all. I don't go to major league games every year, but I went to Cardinals-Dodgers game. I went to an Angels-Dodgers game. I was right behind home plate when Mike Trout hit a homer. So that was kind of cool. Been to Wrigley, never actually went inside Wrigley, but went there to look at Wrigleyville and saw the outside. They were hanging a new sign with a helicopter. That was kind of cool to see how they did that. Let's see. I've been to Iowa baseball games, went to Kansas, Iowa baseball games down in Lawrence. I'm sure this is all very interesting to you. One of our great sponsors treated us to Creighton, Nebraska baseball game over in Omaha last year. And we also went to the College World Series. Got to go see the College World Series in Omaha. So that was a treat. So there's things about, and you go to Iowa Cubs games, minor league stuff here in Iowa. There are things about baseball that I like. I like being outside. But it's just the sport itself bores me. And I don't feel that way about golf. I don't know what it is. It's probably because I just didn't grow up playing baseball. That's really all there is to it. I grew up playing basketball, tennis, and then when I became middle schooler, I started tinkering with golf, and I hated golf before I started playing it.
So I believe what you just touched on is one reason, but I think I have another reason. I always tell people this when I used to get in arguments about baseball, and people would say baseball is boring. That's fine. If you believe it's boring, it's fine. You've probably not given it maybe a chance, but okay, that's fine. And then they enjoy golf. They'll watch golf tournaments on TV, and I'll be like, wait a minute, baseball's boring?
Well,
Here's
like
the
I
deal.
said, if I'm not watching Tiger, I have a hard time just sitting down watching golf. There's something about Tiger Woods. There's something about the greats that captivate you. At least that's for me.
Okay. So I do agree with your analysis that adults are more likely to be playing golf. Therefore, they're interested in watching the best play golf. Number two, golf lends itself, the way the tournaments are played, to television, because it's not like they're following one golfer and we're sitting there for 15 minutes waiting them for they just can go from golfer to golfer to golfer to golfer and just keep it moving.
And they know oftentimes the shot's already occurred, so they know where they're going before they go there, right? And then some no name is, okay, well, why are we watching this no name, on his second shot? Well, he chipped in for an eagle, or whatever the case may be. So, yeah, I mean, that's fair.
This also makes me want to watch a little golf that I haven't watched in a zillion years either.
I really do. I mean, you were working at ESPN when Tiger was in his heyday. I mean, that had to be, I don't know what it was like from your side of things.
Never a Tiger fan.
Weren't you?
I'm not a
Tiger hater.
Critic.
Were you a
hater?
Were you a Phil Mickelson guy or
here? Well, I'm going to go way back, just like our tennis conversation. I'm going to go way back. I was a Jack Nicklaus. Like when I was like 8 years old, Jack Nicklaus was in the twilight of his career, but I liked Jack Nicklaus. So really, I did like Phil too. Yes,
I won't get into the weeds on this, but Tiger's comeback story. I mean, I think the ship has sailed now. I mean, his health is just not what it was. I mean, it never will be. That's what's so sad about it, because I took so much joy in watching him win that Masters. Was that 2017 or whatever it was? But at the same time, like, there's something about a comeback story. I mean, nobody in their right mind is going to defend what he did from a moral standpoint that, was blasted everywhere for the world to see. But at the same time, I do believe in forgiveness, and I'm not someone who was personally wronged by that situation, so I'm not judging anybody on that side of things. But there was something about seeing him come back from that after having to be humiliated to his own doing, humiliation, and then they have these massive issues health wise. And oh, by the way, another stupid mistake. He's going too fast down a curvy road in California and nearly kills himself. He comes back from that. I mean, it really is remarkable. And I remember the morning when I was following the story of Tiger Woods crashing in California. And I remember reflecting on Kobe Bryant and thinking, oh my gosh, he's dead. Like, this guy's dead. And that was not long after Kobe had been killed in that helicopter crash. And I just kept thinking to myself, there's no way that we're going to lose a basketball legend in Kobe and a golf legend in Tiger. And so it was just so, I'm sure he's got a different perspective on life through all of that. I know he does, because it's going to be interesting to see how his son, will you be curious about any horse in the race there, to be curious about how Charlie Woods ends up as a golfer? Because he'll be a pro. I mean, are you at all curious about that, or does that not interest you?
Do you want to hear my response? My actual response?
Yeah.
I have no idea who Charlie Woods is or that he exists.
Yeah, he's Tiger's son, who's
Okay.
teenage. He's a teenager, but he's
I
a
didn't
really
know
good
that.
golfer. Well, he's not, he's not on the pro tour yet, but I'm just saying, like, does that interest you? If he started winning, would that interest you that he's
No,
Tiger Woods' son?
no.
No? Okay. Was it, but if it was Jack Nicklaus's son, would you be more interested in that?
Slightly, but I can't imagine that I would be that interested.
Yeah. Sam Corbin brought up John Daly in the chat, one of the most
Yeah.
talented golfers that ever lived, but he just couldn't stay off the tobacco and the Bud Lights.
Yes.
Or keep his weight under control, there's that.
Nicholas's final major, I don't know if you've heard that story, but it didn't have the drama of Tiger Woods because there was no personal issues there. It was just that he broke down, and back then athletes broke down easier or sooner in their careers. Earlier in their careers, there wasn't the fitness regiment that Tiger, in a lot of ways, revolutionized golf by bringing that component to it. But I remember coming home. I it was the Sunday of the Masters in '86, and I wasn't much interested because Nicholas was out of it, and he wasn't even on the leaderboard going into Sunday. He just came out of nowhere, and I came home and saw the end of it and just could not. I was astonished. Came back from like 9 strokes down on the final 18 to win the Masters.
Yeah, it's those are the types of memories. I mean, 2008 was my real first live memory of Tiger Woods, and I didn't care about golf at the time, but that U.S. Open, the putt that sent that into the playoff with Rocco Mediate, and yeah, I remember that shot, that putt the shot that led up to the putt, and yeah, I think there are some events, college sports events. This is practical and relevant to what we're talking about this week with the NCAA tournament. There are some events that are just iconic, and I think for a lot of people captivate their attention, even if they're not a fan. Like the Indy 500 is one. I'm not somebody who sits down and watches Indy 500, but there are people that, oh, the Indy 500 is going, I'm going to turn it on. It's like, you have no idea who's racing. Like, and again, I don't care. I don't do that. The Olympics, there's people like, and maybe it's a little bit different, but the Olympics, like people have no idea what any of these sports even are, and they got to watch it's on every night.
Curling, yes.
Curling and skeleton and all these weird sports. And then I think there are events like the Masters. I think there are events like Wimbledon. And I watch tennis. It didn't matter if it was Wimbledon, the French Open, or some small tournament, but Wimbledon's another example. The NCAA tournament's an example. The Rose Bowl is an example. The World Cup is an example. I don't know about the Stanley Cup or the NBA Finals, maybe a little bit. Obviously, those are the Super Bowl is the ultimate example, right? That's the ultimate example of people have no idea even who's playing, and we're gonna have a Super Bowl party. It's I don't know. It's
I
just
don't put the Super Bowl in the same category, at least as I'm thinking of what you're running through, because the NFL is the most popular sport in America.
right, but there's a lot of non-football
Sure.
fans that still watch the Super Bowl because it's the Super Bowl, right?
But there are a lot more of those that you're categorizing, like, know nothing about racing, what's going on with the race, who the drivers are, but it's the Indy 500. Same thing
Right.
with the World Cup. It would drive me nuts because I hate the sport of soccer. Again,
Yeah.
I respect them as athletes.
Oh yeah.
I don't like the sport, but the World Cup comes around, and all these people who could care less about soccer are watching World Cup matches.
I agree, and I've done it before. It's been a long time. I don't care. I really don't care at all. GDSPE, Kentucky Derby, great example.
Yeah.
And what the three big, the Triple Crown is the Preakness, the Kentucky Derby, and what's the other one?
The Preakness, the Triple Crown, or the
Preakness, Kentucky Derby, and the
oh my word,
it's on the tip of my tongue, and I can't think of it. See, but see, everybody knows the Kentucky Derby. He'll probably he'll
Belmont Stakes.
Belmont, thank you. So, but the Kentucky Derby has this aura about it.
Yeah.
And so anyways, yeah, it's interesting. Is there any other big, I mean, the World Series probably would fall in that category. Those are when you talk about World Series, Stanley Cup, NBA Finals, Super Bowl, like they're the end of the season champion. As opposed to like the Masters and Wimbledon and the Kentucky Derby, those are just kind of iconic events during the season. Rose Bowl, I think, is a better example because the Rose Bowl is not the national championship. But a lot of people who don't follow the sport, Mark, if you talk to them and say something about the Rose Bowl being on there, oh, I got to watch that. It's like,
Yeah.
you don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
You don't know who's playing. You don't know why they're playing.
Yeah.
And just because TCU beats, Oregon or TCU beats Georgia or whatever, who did they beat that year with Andy Dalton? I can't think of it. Was it
Wisconsin?
Wisconsin. Just because TCU beats Wisconsin, that doesn't really mean anything other than it's a very iconic place. But it's actually a dump. Everything I've heard about the actual stadium, in fact, am I right in saying UCLA is going to be moving away from the Rose Bowl?
I know that it was on the table.
Okay.
I'm going to throw out the Daytona 500.
Yeah, I said the Indy 500, Daytona 500 is a great one on the NASCAR side. So, we could probably come up with more if we kept going, but those are all good ones.
The most I ever watched the Daytona 500, this was, I believe, in 1999. Well, first of all, when I got my first full-time sportscasting gig in Mississippi, I quickly found out that I had to cover NASCAR. I had to include it in, at least 30 seconds in almost every night. So I just grab an interview off the feed and read the AP copy. I knew nothing about it, didn't know what was going on. But I saw Dale Earnhardt's run to win his first Daytona 500. And my thought was, this is as good as it gets. It was just they were just going crazy about how historic this was. And this was just the most amazing finish. And I was thinking, if this is as good as it gets, I'm out.
Yeah. And Barbara in the chat, we mentioned tennis, Wimbledon. That's the event. And then, or people, it's funny, even people who act like they know, they don't know anything about tennis. They couldn't even tell you what the other majors are. They couldn't even tell you that the US Open is a major, but they know Wimbledon. They may pronounce it Wimbledon because they have no idea what they're saying, but they do know the name. It's just one of those things. So, WrestleMania. You just said WrestleMania. Oh my goodness. I would not put WrestleMania in the same conversation. No. Oh,
a couple weekends ago, I actually enjoyed, probably mostly because I was sitting there with my daughter, but she didn't force me to watch the Olympics, but it's 12 degrees outside and we just went out and had dinner. So what are you going to do? You're going to and she had been really into the Olympics. So we watched figure skating and speed skating all night.
Yep. I with all due respect, I have zero interest and can't wait to turn it off. I mean, unless it's a sport with players that I know, unless it's, watching tennis, watching Andy Roddick play on the grass of Wimbledon, but in the Olympics, they're Novak Djokovic. I mean, that interests me. I guess sort of when Michael Phelps was at the top of his game. Hey, how about, here's another one. This is a great one. I can't believe we missed it. The Tour de France. Now, it maybe not now. Lance Armstrong is not around, but when he was, I remember watching it. I watched it on Versus. Remember the Versus network? I watched it on Versus, the Tour de France. Now, talk about boring. We just sitting there all day watching these guys drive through towns and through the mountains of France.
I never watched any of it.
But would you agree that's a good one?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
People just know the name, but there's other races, right? They don't just train all year for one event.
For sure. All right, Corey, before we say goodbye, you might as well let everyone know where they can find you.
Yeah, from the Hawkeye of the Storm, head over there. Whether I'm in Tampa or not this week, we'll have constant coverage. So we've got Kyle, my guy Kyle's going to be at the first event in Iowa City, the women's game against, I almost said Sigmund Freud, against FDU, Fairleigh Dickinson. And so we'll have that. And then we'll have post game after the men's game against Clemson. And then if those two teams advance, we'll have post game on Sunday. We'll have post game on Monday. We also will have NCAA wrestling championship coverage as well. So, and then it all comes to a screeching halt at some point. We've been just nonstop with post game, and then, at least by the end of the month, basically, we're guaranteed to come to a screeching halt, and then we'll start transitioning. We got a couple of guests already. I had a great ran into a lot of people at the Big Ten tournament, like people that I don't know personally. Some people I had conversations with there. It's kind of cool to talk to. Some people I just kept, you walk by them in the hallways. But it is one of those events that, some big names, they're there. Saw Robbie Hummel a ton. I got to talk to Paul Burmeister. We plan on having Paul on the show. I know Don's been in touch with Paul here recently. We're going to get Paul onto a show talking spring football. So that's in the works. J.A. Adonde, I saw him at the Big Ten tournament. Seth Davis was there. All the big college basketball names. Andy Katz was there. Had a great conversation with Anthony Herron. He's another guy I'd love to get on the show. I'll tell you once we get off the air of a run-in that I had in the elevator, but we'll save that for once we're off the air.
Good stuff. Well, don't believe I can aid you in getting to Florida, but if you need a place to stay, now the commute might be rather lengthy, but
how far are you from Tampa?
It's a good 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's some logistics behind it I'm waiting on right now. I actually got a buddy that lives in Spring Hill, which is like less than an hour from Tampa, but got credentials, but waiting on a couple of things to pan out here. So I appreciate that.
All right, folks, we will talk Iowa football and basketball most likely next Tuesday, 4 Central. We'll see you then.